Today I'm going to play through Pokemon Yellow with only an Eevee, and I'm really worried about this one. Check out Eevee's Generation 1 Learn set. It's so bad. I can't believe how bad it is actually. Like, what am I even going to do against the ghosts? Well, there's only two options. One is Bide and the other one is Mimic. That's it. There's nothing else. Also, the AI doesn't even have PP, while I do, and so that means I can't stall out the ghosts either. And Toxic isn't an option because all of the ghosts in this generation are also part Poison type. So yeah, I think this challenge is going to be a pretty brutal one. Here are the rules for today. They're also in the video description in case you need to reference them later. I just want to make a quick note before we get into this that I actually got a new microphone for this video. I actually had it last week as well for Clefairy. And this enables me to record live reactions without awful audio. So I'm no longer going to have to record in a closet. It's really nice. I will have some audio inconsistencies in this video though because I'm still working out exactly what the best setup is for this new gear, so bear with me during this process. The first rival fight's actually an easy win if the opponent's Eevee uses Tail Whip even once. So with that, I'm moving on. Now, the ghost might be my main fear in this run overall, especially Agatha, but Brock is pretty scary at the beginning of the game as well. After all, he's the rock-hard Pokemon trainer, and all that I have is Tackle and Tail Whip. But I've got a plan. First, I take care of the optional rival so that he'll choose Jolteon for his final team. This is actually the hardest champion team to fight in Yellow. In order to beat him at this location, I want to be level 9, and so I have Sand Attack. And I think I'm going to be able to do it. Also, because Eevee's a normal type Pokemon, it gets the same type attack bonus with Tackle, boosting its power by a factor of 1.5. I luck out and Spearow doesn't use Growl. That's really nice because a lowered attack is really annoying going into the Eevee that follows it. Here against the rivals Eevee, I get to use Sand Attack, and this just feels so good. It's so nice using dirty tactics for once. Usually the AI is the one that ruins your accuracy, but today it's my turn. It hits me with a Tackle, which does a lot of damage because my defense has been lowered, but I survive and I knock it out. With that out of the way, I need to discuss my plan for Brock. I'm of the belief that I'm going to be able to defeat him with a combination of Sand Attack, Tail Whip, and Tackle. Brock's full heals can't help him against the might of Sand Attack. Just because of how powerful lowering the opponent's accuracy can be, I think that I'm only going to need to be around level 13 or 14 to win this fight. Brock opens with Geodude, I use Sand Attack, lower its accuracy, and then the Geodude tackles me. It's doing 4 hit points of damage because I'm only level 14. I use Sand Attack second turn, and the Geodude's tackle connects for a second time, taking me down to 37 hit points. On the third turn, finally Geodude misses. I want to set up Sand Attack completely against the Geodude because Tackle's going to take a while to knock it out. But during this time, Geodude actually lands one more tackle before my setup is complete. With 3 of those set up, I start to tackle, and it actually does around 30% damage to the Geodude. Okay, that's workable. I think that I'm actually going to start the Onix fight with a decent amount of health left over. It takes me 5 turns of using Tackle to knock the Geodude out because one of my tackles missed, and then I finally move on to the Onix. Same strategy here. Sand Attack 6 times, after that, use some Tail Whips to lower its defense, and then start to tackle it. It's nice having status moves in this fight because if the Onix is trying to store up energy with Bide, you can just use the status moves against it, and in this case, I can just use Tail Whip every time Onix goes for Bide. That further lowers its defense and allows me to do more damage when I finally decide to attack. So really my status moves are just allowing me to avoid Brock's rock-hard Onix from unleashing energy all over me. Near the end of the fight, the Onix traps me in a bind, but it's only doing 2 damage, and even after it lasts for 5 turns, I still win the fight with nearly half health remaining. So Brock's out of the way, now we can move on. Honestly, I'm pretty impressed that Eevee was able to get this done at level 14. So I played through Yellow with only Pikachu, something that young Scott never would have dreamed of doing. I always just wanted to get rid of Pikachu as soon as I could because I thought it was a trash starter. I actually wanted to buy Pokemon Blue and Pokemon Red because I hated Yellow so much as a kid. Everyone else at my school got to choose between Charmander, Bulbasaur, or Squirtle, and I was just stuck with Pikachu, which felt so useless, especially against Brock. However, my parents really didn't like how much I liked Pokemon. They were like, he's so obsessed with this, we need to limit how much he can do it. So I could only play on weekends, and they really wouldn't buy me another game. So I actually bought Pokemon Blue from a friend, and I rented Pokemon Red from Blockbuster Video. I did all of that just so that I could avoid Pikachu as a starter. Now as an adult, look at what I'm doing to myself. I played through the whole game with only Pikachu, and believe me, it was painful. And then I played through the game with Clefairy, who could have been the mascot of the Pokemon series, and this game likely would have been called Pokemon Pink in that case. And that playthrough was honestly pretty easy. It was a nice breath of fresh air after Pikachu. And now today, I'm doing one that I think is going to be even harder, which is Eevee. So after all these videos, I'm getting really excited to use the official Kanto starters again. In Mount Moon, I pick up the HP up, the rare candy, I skip the escape rope as usual, and I skip Mega Punch because Eevee is a dog, and dogs are not particularly known for punching people. I passed by the Moonstone, and I just thought to myself, like, it's strange that Eevee doesn't have a Moonstone evolution. It would be really cool to get one, but I just don't know what type it would be. Maybe a ghost type evolution, but that would be more of like a Duskstone evolution. I'm not sure. Anyways, it would just be cool to have one. I want more evolutions. Can we just please get more? Now I'm going to cut over to my live footage of the Super Nerd fight because this doesn't go exactly how I was expecting. So here it is. Oh, this fight is awful. Okay, so it's Super Nerd. This is going really poorly. Oh my gosh. It's like I'm not scared, but just like I can't believe the number of times I've missed with tackle. Oh, and then I get poisoned. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. This is why I buy antidotes. At least I get the dome fossil. Yeah. Nice. Jesse and James are next, and honestly, I usually don't talk about them because they're really easy, but today things don't really fit into that narrative. They open with Ekans, and I immediately go for tackle. It gets a critical hit, and then I get wrapped. After that, I knock it out second turn, and then Meowth comes out. It lands a bite, doing a decent amount of damage, and I have to take it out over 3 turns because it's not doing much damage. And then against the coughing, I realize that I'm actually racing. I'm not doing very much damage to it, and it's doing 5 hit points of damage to me each turn. Luckily, I'm able to pull it out just in the nick of time, and I'm moving on to Cerulean City. Here, I buy 3 repels, because that's all I need for the rock tunnel. After that, I've got to fight the rival or Misty, and today I choose to go for the rival first, because I don't really think that Eevee matches up well against the Starmie yet. Spearow's first, and it uses Growl right away, lowering my attack. That's really not good. And then my tackle misses. Yikes, this was a terrible first turn. Second turn, the Spearow misses a Growl because the AI has a 25% chance to miss all status moves, and my tackle finally connects, dealing around 30% damage. Spearow uses Leer next, lowering my defense, and my tackle connects again. Then it goes for Fury Attack, I go for Tackle, and Spearow goes for Growl again, lowering my attack. This is getting really annoying. I knock it out, and up next is Sandshrew. Now, I really don't have a good choice here since my attack has been lowered so much, so I just decide to use Sand Attack right away because I want to lower its accuracy and hopefully prevent it from using Sand Attack against me. I want to preserve my accuracy as much as possible. During the process of blinding the shrew, it actually lands 1 Sand Attack, so I get my accuracy lowered anyways. After that, I start to tackle, and it's really not doing very much damage. I manage to take it out, and then the rat's next. I use Tackle, it does around 1/3 damage, it retaliates with a tackle, and then it gets a critical hit, taking me down to 16 hit points. Yikes. I do another 1/3 damage, and then it uses Tail Whip, lowering my defense even more. The next turn, I luckily managed to take it out, but I'm really not in a good position going into the Eevee fight. I've only got 16 hit points left, my defense has been lowered multiple times, and I have 1 stage lower accuracy. I decide to start with Sand Attack to hopefully make this a little bit less consistent for the Eevee, but it fails, and then the Eevee uses Tail Whip, which also fails. Okay, that's a good first turn. I use Sand Attack, lower Eevee's accuracy, it uses Tail Whip and lowers my defense. I use Sand Attack, it fails again because my accuracy is just trash after the Sandshrew. Of course, 1 Sand Attack does this. It uses Tail Whip, it fails. I use Sand Attack, accuracy falls again, and then it tries Tail Whip again. I'm just so terrified that it's going to attack me here at some point. And then finally Tackle lands, and I faint. Okay, so this is the first time in a while that this second rival has actually stopped me. Instead of trying again right away, I'm going to fight the trainers in Misty's gym, and honestly, these trainers were a lot harder than I expected. Just like, yikes. Nothing is going well for Eevee so far. I'm glad that I got by Brock in such a short time, but it honestly might have been better if I had just trained up higher for him, because then this section of the game would have been easier. With these trainers out of the way, I head back to the rival and face him again. And this time, things are still not going well. I actually end up getting to Sandshrew, but I only have 20 hit points left, so that's much worse than the previous fight. I do my sand attacking shenanigans, lower its defense a little bit with Tail Whip, and then I tackle it and knock it out. But I'm heading onto the rat with only 14 hit points left. I use Tackle, it doesn't faint, and then it uses Hyper Fang and knocks me out. Okay, so what can I do to make this fight a little easier immediately without wasting too much real time? One strategy to do this would be to use my rare candies. I've actually picked up 2 at this point. There's one in Mount Moon and then there's one in Cerulean City. So I use both of these, level up to level 21, and then try the fight again. However, even at this new level, I'm just not able to take the Eevee out and I end up fainting. So that's really not encouraging. Maybe I should try Misty first and then come back to this fight after I've defeated her. She opens with Staryu. It actually outspeeds with Water Gun, doing around 1/6 damage, and then I use Tackle, which does around 40% to the Starfish. Okay, so that's not really good. Like, I managed to knock the Staryu out, but then Starmie comes out, it immediately gets an X defend, and I'm trying to use Sand Attack here to lower its accuracy. It uses Bubble Beam, it misses, thankfully, and then I use Sand Attack and lower its accuracy again. It uses Tackle, it connects, does around 14% damage, and I use Sand Attack, lowering its accuracy again. But then this time it uses Bubble Beam, and it lands, getting a critical hit and knocks me out. So this first fight is really showing me that I'm just gambling against Misty. I'm really relying on the fact that she's just going to miss all of her attacks and never hit a Bubble Beam. And that seems unlikely just because Bubble Beam's likely to hit me at least once before I get all my Sand Attacks off. There is an answer just around the corner though, and that's Quick Attack. If I level up a little bit in the grass just west of Cerulean, I can then use my 2 rare candies and obtain Quick Attack within short order. The reason that this move is really helpful is that it adds extra power, 5 more power that is. It adds extra accuracy, 5% more accuracy, and it also adds priority, which means that it's always going to move first. So this is really nice, and with it on my moveset, I'm able to knock out all of the rivals' Pokemon and proceed to Nugget Bridge. Okay, it's good to be by this wall. It was starting to feel a little bit like the Fossils video. Cerulean was so painful in those runs. Nugget Bridge provides me some good experience, and that allows Eevee to level up so that it's level 25 when I start the Misty fight. I use Quick Attack, it does more than half damage to the Staryu, and then it uses Water Gun, which only does 10% damage to me. I follow up with Quick Attack and the Staryu faints. Starmie's next. I use Quick Attack and it does just under 1/3 damage, and then the Starfish uses Bubble Beam, getting a critical hit and taking me down to 50% health. So I'm going to need at least 3 more hits, and I really just need to cross my finger and hope that Bubble Beam doesn't connect. Starmie uses Water Gun the next turn, and then Water Gun the turn following that, no critical hits, so with that I'm able to Quick Attack my way to a victory. But I do have to say that this win was pretty luck-based. If I wanted to make this section of the game more consistent, I should have fought more trainers in Mount Moon to gain levels before the second rival fight. That would have allowed me to access Quick Attack earlier, and then it also would have given me additional levels to fight Misty with. However, if I really wanted to make Misty as consistent as possible, the best strategy would be to simply head to the SS Sand first and pick up Body Slam. And I'm really excited that I now get access to this awesome stab normal move. With it on my side, I'm able to completely steamroll the SSN rival. Like, I feel like I could just cut this dialogue out and use it in every video that a Pokemon learns Body Slam, because it's just they learn Body Slam and then the rival is just completely easy right after that. Following that, the Trash Can puzzle, which I'm probably going to call the Trash Can Lottery from now on, is actually really easy, and then I'm allowed to face Surge. He opens with Raichu, and it goes for Mega Punch right away, outspeeding and dealing 30% damage to me. I use Body Slam, and it actually does over half damage, so that's pretty good. Raichu then uses Growl and lowers my attack, preventing Body Slam from knocking it out. Okay, just please not a Mega Kick. And then Raichu uses it, and it connects. Ah! But Eevee survives, uses Body Slam, and knocks the Raichu out. Okay, so that was really tense, but at least I did it. I'm moving on. In between Cerulean and Rock Tunnel, there's the Wrapping Lass, and today Body Slam allows me to knock out all of her Pokemon with one hit, so I'm not getting stuck in any wraps today. Coming up next is the self-destructing hiker, and I actually have a plan for him, and it's so dirty. I love it so much. It's quite literally dirty because my strategy is to spam Sand Attack and just hope that he misses with self-destruct. So that's the strategy, that's it, it's really simple. Just don't do any damage and hope that all of his Pokemon blow up. So here's the live footage that I took while I was fighting him. Yeah, check it out. Okay, it's hiker time. Here we go. Oh, I know this is going to be bad. Okay, there's only one strat. Just make them miss. Please miss. Oh no. Yes, okay, that's one. I just have to get one more. This is the funniest strat. Okay, I think yeah, okay. Yes! I did it! First attempt! Okay, hype! Sand Attack for the win! I get to Celadon and I buy the TM for Reflect, I buy a Protein to raise Eevee's attack, I get the Freshwater to access Saffron, and after that I head into the Rocket Hideout to grab the PP up. My videos are basically just a long Cialis commercial now. Sponsor me, please. Okay, so we've reached that point in the video now. I'm at Pokemon Tower, and after this rival fight, I'm going to have to fight some ghosts. The only move that I have that can actually deal damage to the ghosts is Bide. And because the AI doesn't have PP like I mentioned earlier in the video, this is actually the only way to get through these fights. So here are the problems with that though. Nightshade, despite being a ghost type move, actually hits normal type Pokemons in Generation 1 because it does fixed damage. Bide needs to absorb damage for at least 2 turns, sometimes 3, in order to deal damage back to the opponent's Pokemon. So I have to rely on the fact that the Ghastly is going to use Nightshade when I'm using Bide. The problem here is that self-inflicted confusion damage actually cancels Bide. And I'm going to be confused a lot because Confuse Ray is 100% accurate. I'm really lucky here though that the AI actually has a 25% chance to miss all status moves, so I'm really actually banking on that to allow me to get through this fight. And here's how it goes. So the first Chandler has 2 Ghastly, and unfortunately 1 Bide after getting hit by Nightshade isn't enough to knock it out in 1 hit. So this is really unfortunate. That basically means after hitting myself in confusion way too many times, like it shouldn't be this many times, that this feels unfair. I'm just not able to take the Chandler's second Ghastly out, and I lose 3 times at this fight. While I was playing, what I thought the solution was obviously just training up to gain more hit points, because if I have more hit points, then I can take more Nightshades and deal more damage to the second Ghastly. I continue this training in Erica's gym, and then I take her on. At this point, my level's pretty high, so it takes a few body slams to knock out the Tangela. After that, I take care of the Weepinbell and the Gloom with ease. I spend some time training south of Lavender Town, and after that, I return to the Ghosts at level 40. And this continues to be so demoralizing. I just hit myself in confusion so many times. Like, seriously, this is not fair. Like, it's supposed to be a 50% chance. I know I'm ranting about this, but like, ugh, just so frustrating. When I thought of leveling up to gain more HP, I actually didn't consider teaching Eevee Rest this early on. Usually I like to save this TM until later in the game so that I have it for the League. But if I teach it now, I'm not going to be able to learn over top of it, and I really think that I'm going to need it to take on Agatha, especially if I'm trying to use Bide against her. But here, it really does conveniently solve this problem. It allows me to heal up my health and then strike back and knock the Ghastlies out. With some sleepy tactics on my side, I'm able to steamroll past all the Ghastly, then crush Jesse and James and obtain the Pokeflute. In the dojo in Saffron, I train for extra levels, and then I train in Silph. After that, I head over to the Celadon department store and buy more vitamins for Eevee. I want this little thing to be as buff as possible. Next is Cycling Road, and I do a little bit of training here. I also realize, like, why are all the PP-ups hidden? I don't think any of them are actually just sitting somewhere in a Pokeball. I guess Game Freak really doesn't want you to get freaky. In the Safari Zone, I just want to make a note about my Pikachu playthrough. A lot of you mentioned that you thought that Pikachu learned Surf in Pokemon Yellow, but it actually doesn't. The only way that you can get the Surfing Pikachu is by transferring it in from Pokemon Stadium. Koga's next. I use Body Slam and it doesn't knock the Venonat out, allowing it to retaliate with Psychic, dealing around 10% damage. Okay, so this isn't going to be very good because these Venonat can put me to sleep. I probably should have prioritized getting poisoned against the Hypno immediately before him in order to avoid sleep tactics. However, this time none of the Venonats prioritize using sleep moves, and I knock them all out and move on to Venomoth. This Fairy Steel Titan uses Toxic first turn, but it fails, and I use Body Slam, which deals more than half damage. It tries Toxic again, because of course it does, and then Body Slam knocks it out. So Koga's taken care of. Alright, let's take care of the rival in Silph now. He opens with Sandslash. I use Body Slam, it does more than half damage, paralyzes the Sandslash, and prevents it from moving. Adding insult to injury, my second Body Slam gets a critical hit and knocks the Sandslash out. Ninetales is next. It uses Quick Attack, I use Body Slam, and it faints in 1 hit. Okay, this is good. Cloyster's next. I don't have a good move against it. I use Body Slam, it paralyzes it, and then Cloyster uses Clamp. But then Paralysis activates and prevents its Clamp from continuing. I use Body Slam again and the Shellfish faints. Kadabra's next. Obviously, Body Slam takes care of it in a single hit, and I'm moving on to his ace, Jolteon. I use Body Slam, it gets a critical hit, and Jolteon faints. Okay, so this 5-0 fight was really easy. I normally don't talk about this Giovanni fight, but just because I talked about it in my Pikachu video, I feel like it's worth mentioning here. Yeah, this one's way easier for Eevee. It knocks out all of his Pokemon and moves on with ease. So now I want to talk about Blaine's gym and the quiz. In Pokemon Red and Blue, you can actually walk up to the trainers and just click on them and they'll fight you right away. If you win the fight, then the door opens and you're able to proceed. However, in Pokemon Yellow, if you talk to them, they'll actually just give you a little bit of dialogue and then stop talking to you. And then you have to do the quiz. So it is mandatory for you to try the quiz in Pokemon Yellow. That means that the fastest way to get into a battle with them if you want to train against all of these trainers is to just fail each one of the quiz questions. That's why I'm always answering these wrong and not just talking to the trainers. In Pokemon Yellow, you actually just can't. Blaine's next. He opens with Ninetales. I use Body Slam, get a critical hit, and knock it out. Okay, that's 1 down. Rapidash is next. I use Body Slam. It takes it down to around 1/3 health, and then it uses Growl, lowering my attack. Okay, so that's annoying going into the Arcanine fight. I Body Slam it, it does around 30% damage, and then it sets up Reflect. Okay, that's not good. I I use Body Slam again, and Arcanine spams Reflect again. Like, alright, I guess Blaine, whatever. And then on the third turn, my Body Slam gets a critical hit and knocks it out. Okay, so that was a really easy fight. Moving on. I do a bit of training in Sabrina's gym because generally I like to fight these trainers. They're pretty easy. But today I avoid all of the trainers with ghosts. Like, just no, I'm not fighting any ghosts. I refuse. Sabrina sends out Abra first. I use Body Slam and knock it out with ease. Kadabra's next. I again outspeed and knock it out in a single hit. Alakazam's last. And then it chooses Recover first turn. It fails, I use Body Slam and knock it out. Okay, so that's the definition of an easy Sabrina fight. Up next is Giovanni, and this fight is actually really hard in yellow. To make things a little bit easier for Eevee, I pick up the TM from Mimic, and this is going to allow me to steal Earthquake against the Dugtrio. I'm really going to need it if I have any hope of managing the Rhydon. I managed to get through all of his Pokemon, and I don't end up having much health left over when the Rhino comes out. I use Rest first turn to restore my health, and then Giovanni uses a Guard Spec. Okay, that's pretty lucky. Next turn he uses Rock Slide, dealing around 1/3 damage to me. I wake up, the Rhino uses Earthquake, and it does a lot, taking me all the way back down to 20% health. So I'm going to rest up here again and hope that the Rhino uses Fury Attack or Horn Drill. Both of those things will not do very much to Eevee. Giovanni does come through and uses Fury Attack twice, but on the turn I wake up, he uses Earthquake, and it gets a critical hit. Like, what are the chances? Rhydon is so slow. In Generation 1, critical hits are determined based on the Pokemon's base speed, so it's really unlikely for Rhydon to get a critical hit. Anyways, I guess I lost. I should try this again. In the second fight, I arrive at Nidoking, and then I use Earthquake, but it doesn't knock it out, and then the Nidoking uses Double Kick and knocks me out. So that's not good. I guess this fight is actually going to turn out to be quite hard for Eevee as well. Definitely not Pikachu levels of difficulty, but still pretty hard. To make things a little bit easier for myself, I use some rare candies before I fight him for a third time. At level 66, I try again. I mimic Earthquake, Dugtrio uses Sand Attack, lowering my accuracy. This is like the most annoying thing that can happen when you want to use Mimic first turn against it. After that, I use Body Slam, and it misses because of the accuracy drop, and then Giovanni uses a Guard Spec. Okay, at least he's got my back with his AI. I use Body Slam, I knock the Dugtrio out, and Persian comes out. I use Body Slam, and of course it misses. Giovanni uses Guard Spec. Oh, thank you again. I use Body Slam, it connects, but the Persian doesn't faint. It hangs on with just a sliver of health. It uses Slash, gets a critical hit, because of course it does, dealing 1/3 damage, and then I knock it out. Nidoqueen's next. Earthquake knocks it out in one hit. Nidoking follows. It actually survives. It uses Double Kick for super effective damage and takes me down to 85 hit points. My following Earthquake is super effective and knocks it out. Rhydon's last. I go for Earthquake first turn, and I miss because of the earlier Sand Attack. Rock Slide connects and takes me down to 34 hit points. I use Rest, and Giovanni comes through again with a Guard Spec. Thank you very much. I stay asleep, the Rhydon uses Horn Drill, which doesn't work because I have higher speed, and then I wake up and it uses Rock Slide. Okay, that's good. I use Earthquake, taking it down to under half health. It uses Rock Slide. I try Earthquake again and miss. Rhydon connects with Rock Slide again, taking me down to 15% health, and then I've got to rest up again. And I luck out because it uses Horn Drill. Okay, so I got a free turn. It connects with Earthquake next turn, dealing 1/3 damage, and then I wake up, and it Horn Drills. Okay, good. I use Earthquake, and it knocks the Rhydon out. I've done it. I've defeated Giovanni, and I've completed the gym challenge. Now I need to take on the final rival fight before the league. And honestly, I'm not really sure what to say here, so the first Sandslash has Slash, and with Eevee's speed stat, it's going to get a critical hit around 86% of the time. So I use Mimic to steal it, and after that, I just slash my way through all of his Pokemon. It's actually really easy. I train a bit in Victory Road before the league, and here are my stats and moveset that I arrive at the league with. Do you think I can do it? I'm honestly feeling optimistic about most of the fights, except Agatha. Again, I'm just terrified for her, and it's not because of the ghosts. It's because my only options against her are Mimic and Bide. It's really bad. So let's see how I do. Lorelei opens with Dugong. I use Body Slam first turn, it gets an Aurora Beam and lowers my attack. Okay, that's not a good start to this fight. I knock it out the second turn, and that leads to Cloyster. So this one's annoying because it has so much defense. It takes 3 turns for me to knock it out, and that's even with 1 critical hit coming through right at the end. Now it's time for Slowbro. And this thing's pretty scary because it's going to use Amnesia and then occasionally use Surf or Psychic, which gets really strong after it's set up. I use Body Slam, it uses Amnesia. I use Body Slam again, it uses Amnesia. And then I use Body Slam, get a critical hit, and knock it out. Okay, that's good. I think it would have been a 4 hit without that last crit. Jinx is next. I use Body Slam, and it takes it into a range of health where Lorelei retroactively uses a Super Potion to heal it. Okay, so that's good. I can knock it out without taking any damage. Lapras is last. I use Body Slam, it does around 30% damage, and then Lapras hits me with Blizzard, which does so much. Oh my gosh! It takes Eevee all the way down to 8 hit points. Okay, I survived. I use Rest to heal, Lapras connects with Hydro Pump, and then connects with Body Slam. I wake up, I Body Slam it uses Blizzard, and misses. Okay, that's what I needed. I rest up again, Lapras uses Body Slam, and this time gets a critical hit, dealing 1/3 damage to me. Okay, this is really not good. It uses Hydro Pump and takes me down under half health, and then uses Blizzard, and that takes me down to 41 hit points. Okay, I think I'm just gonna try for the attack. I use Body Slam, get a critical hit, and Lapras faints. Okay, so I did it. I'm moving on to the Hiker. Against him, I'm using my typical strategy that I would use if I had an electric type. In this case, I'm mimicking Dig because Body Slam really isn't going to do much damage to the Onix. After I have Dig on my side, I'm able to take out the Onix and then use Body Slam for both of the Hitmons. I can use Dig again on the second Onix, and finally Machamp comes out. I use Body Slam and I just pray that it doesn't use Submission. In this case, it doesn't. It uses Karate Chop, gets a critical hit, but whatever, I tank it fairly easily. And then I use Body Slam and knock it out. Okay, I'm moving on to Agatha, the true test of Eevee. So with Agatha, I have to be able to knock her out with her own moves. And really there's only one good option, and that's Lick from the first Gengar. So I have a terrible physical move that I have to use to knock out all of the ghosts. Okay, so let's see how many times it takes me to beat her. I'm gonna go over to the live reaction audio for this fight. Okay, it's Agatha time. I have no idea how this is gonna go. I'm actually just terrified. So my first strat is Mimic Lick, because, yeah, I can actually damage the ghosts with Lick. So luckily Lick is breaking the substitute. That's good. And then Body Slam on all of the Golbat and the Arbok, obviously. Don't want to waste anything on them. I think I should Lick this one and Bide on the final Gengar if I run out of PP. Is this going to be the easiest fight in the run? No. No, this is not happening. This is not happening. Okay. No. Okay, this is not happening. What? What? I beat Agatha on the first attempt? Are you kidding me? I didn't think that was possible. So I genuinely can't believe that happened. Like, it was so shocking to me when I beat her on my first fight. Anyways, I'm moving on. And against Lance, things are really easy. Body Slam is able to take care of his first 2 Pokemon with decent ease. Since I have Mimic, I can actually just steal the Ice Beam here to make the last 2 Pokemon on his team fairly easy. The Aerodactyl does manage to outspeed me, but after I connect with it with Ice Beam, I knock it out and I move on to the Dragonite. It takes 4 times damage, Eevee outspeeds, and I take it down in 1 hit. So all that remains for Eevee is the champion. Can I do it? Let's find out. Sandslash is first. I've replaced Bide with Reflect because I don't need Bide now that Agatha is taken care of. I use Reflect, Sandslash uses Slash, bypassing my defense boost, and it gets a critical hit, because of course it does, dealing 1/3 damage to me. I use Mimic next to steal Earthquake. I really want this against the Ninetales and the Jolteon at the end of the fight. Bot uses Slash again, dealing another 1/3 damage to me. My Body Slam connects, paralyzes the Sandslash, and then it uses Earthquake. But this time, Reflect pulls through, allows me to survive, and I get to rest up. After that, Sandslash is paralyzed, it uses Fury Swipes, it uses Poison Sting, so it's basically doing nothing to me. And then I wake up, use Body Slam, and Earthquake connects for a critical hit, taking me down to 1/4 health. Okay, so that's not good, but luckily it's within KO range, so Body Slam knocks it out. Alakazam's next. It uses Recover first turn, it fails obviously because it's at full health, and then my Body Slam knocks it out. So the Alakazam here was pretty risky because it outsped me. I wouldn't have been able to do anything if it got Psybeam or Psychic off. Up next though is Executor, and this gives me the perfect opportunity to rest up. I rest, it stomps, it finally seeds me, which is really annoying, and then I use Body Slam against it, dealing just under half damage. However, then it uses Hypnosis, and Hypnosis is so annoying because sometimes you stay asleep far too long. And today, that's the case. I stay asleep for what seems like a ridiculous amount of time. Honestly, I can't believe this. Like, it was so frustrating. Finally, I knock the Trolley Pineapple out and I move on to Cloyster. I use Body Slam, it causes paralysis and Cloyster can't move first turn. Second turn, I use Body Slam again and it connects with Aurora Beam, taking me down to around 1/4 health. My next Body Slam does a decent amount of damage, but then Cloyster uses Ice Beam and knocks me out. Okay, so that really wasn't careful play at the end. I probably should have just used Rest on that last turn and continued the fight. So let's try this again. However, this time I want to give myself an even better chance to win, so I use my rare candies and then I come back to the fight. Same strategy. Reflect first turn, Mimic second turn and steal Earthquake, and then use Body Slam to knock the Sandslash out. This time I'm able to do it in a much smoother fashion. Alakazam's next. I use Body Slam, and this time I outspeed it because I'm at a higher level and I knock it out in a single turn. Executor's next. I use Body Slam, I get a critical hit, and I knock the pineapple out. Yes! Okay, so that's what I like to see. Cloyster's next. I use Body Slam, it deals just under half damage, and then it uses Aurora Beam. Ah! It gets a huge critical hit, and also lowers my attack in the process. I survive with only 8 hit points. So I've got to use Rest now. It uses Spike Cannon, then Aurora Beam, and then Ice Beam, taking me down to around 65% hit points before I'm finally able to strike back with Body Slam, which gets a critical hit and knocks Cloyster out. Okay, that feels good. Ninetales is up next. I use Earthquake, it doesn't knock the Fiery Fox out, and it uses Fire Spin, trapping me for only 1 turn. Okay, that's not so bad. Earthquake connects, and it faints. Jolteon's last. It uses Quick Attack, I use Earthquake, and it doesn't faint. However, on the next turn I actually move first, so that must mean we're speed tied. I connect with Earthquake and I knock Jolteon out. I've done it. I beat Pokemon Yellow with only an Eevee, and I am actually so amazed. I really thought that this was going to be worse than Pikachu just because of Agatha, but I beat her on my first attempt, and I got a time of 1 hour, 56 minutes, and 52 seconds. I also did this with only 15 resets, so that's 10 less resets than Pikachu got. But now before I talk about every single metric, I want to go back and do a consistent league test across all of the trainers starting at Giovanni. I want to make sure that I've discovered the strategy that I think is most consistent against each one of these opponents. Okay, so first I'm going to test for consistency against Giovanni. At level 62, my moveset is Body Slam, Reflect, Mimic, and Rest. Here's my initial strategy with this moveset. I want to Mimic Earthquake against Dugtrio, and then after that, knock it out. That allows me to set up Reflect against the Persian, and it's going to use Slash here most likely, or Double Team, which can get really annoying. After I take care of it, then I can sweep. And I win 2 fights this way, but then I encounter a problem. Persian can knock me out with critical hits from Slash, and this gets even worse if Dugtrio's previously set up Sand Attack. Persian can get double team set up and make me way too inconsistent. Sometimes I can manage to take the Persian out, but then I lost twice against the Nidoking because of accuracy problems caused by Sand Attack. So then I went on a date with my girlfriend. The next morning with a clear head, I figured out the problem. It's move ordering. Instead of using Mimic to steal Earthquake against the Dugtrio, I can just knock it out with Body Slam on the first turn. That completely prevents it from using Sand Attack, preserving my accuracy for the rest of the fight. Next is Persian, and while it can use Slash or Double Team, I'm most likely going to be able to knock it out over the course of 2 turns with Body Slam. That leads to Nidoqueen, and Giovanni has good AI, which forces Nidoqueen to use Double Kick, so that means here I can set up Reflect to minimize damage, and then after that Mimic Earthquake. Then I can rest if my health is low, and then start the sweep. Sometimes this takes some time because I have to heal against the Nidoqueen and the Nidoking, but in the end I'm able to win. Other times Rhydon's the sticking point because honestly its Earthquake does so much damage. But sometimes he uses Guard Spec a lot throughout the fight and everything just feels smooth and easy. I achieved 5 wins and no losses with this strategy, so I'm feeling that this is really consistent. Let's move on. My previous fight against the final rival didn't inspire confidence, so I wanted to test to see if this was consistent. I usually don't test this fight, but today I think it's necessary. Also, I need to test this with the moveset that I just defeated Giovanni with. After all, playing through the league once convinced me that I don't need Bide for Agatha anyways, so this moveset is possible. I won't try to hype this up at all though, this fight's just so easy. I can use Mimic to steal Slash first turn and then spam it for the remainder of the fight. If I get threatened at any point because my health gets low, I can just use Rest to heal up, take some time, and then after that I can just start using Slash again. I win 5 times in a row without even breaking a sweat. In my playthrough, Lorelei actually gave me a scare. I managed to beat her on my first fight, but it just didn't feel like it was going well. Her Lapras took me down to low red health, and so I want to find a way to fix this fight and make it feel consistent. My first thought was that I can use Toxic to stall the Lapras out, but there's actually a better choice. I could Mimic Amnesia on the Slowbro and use it to improve my special, so that I can tank Lapras's hits with more reliability. In Generation 1, Amnesia raises the Pokemon's special stat, so it's both increasing Eevee's offensive potential with special moves and also its defensive potential against special moves. That allows me to tank the Lapras's hits and knock it out. On my second fight, I realized that Slowbro can really slow things down because it knows Withdraw, and then it can tank my Body Slams very well. One way to mess up Slowbro's consistency at stalling me is to use Body Slam first turn for maximum damage, and also the potential paralysis. This is what occurs on my third fight, and it allows me to take the victory. If there isn't a paralysis, which is the case in my fifth fight against Lorelei, you can actually just use Toxic against the Slowbro before setting up Amnesia. In that way, you save PP and take it out with ease. So I've done it. I've made Lorelei consistent. I beat her 5 times in a row with no losses. So now I'm moving on to Bruno. For him, I replaced Toxic with Reflect. The only reason I'm doing this is that I want to be as prepared as possible for the unlikely event that Machamp uses Submission. I'll test the fight until it occurs so that I know that Eevee can survive it. I had a realization during these fights that there is one level of inconsistency here. It could paralyze, burn, or freeze me with its elemental punches as a result. However, I end up winning 4 times in a row. And on my 5th fight, Machamp uses Submission. And misses. This move is so bad. Finally, on the 6th fight, it actually lands Submission and Eevee just survives. This was after I used Reflect once and the Onix used Screech against me once, so I'm actually confident that this fight's consistent. There is a wild card, of course, where Machamp gets a critical hit with Submission, but that's so unlikely because Machamp's speed is pretty bad. So it's time to move on to Agatha. On the first fight, I realized that my PP is the real issue here because I don't have Bide. The move that is genuinely thought of as one of the worst moves in Generation 1 actually just gives you a backup plan here. In this case, I can just grab an additional PP up so that I have 2 more uses of Lick. And even after this PP up, I'm still not capable of taking care of Agatha. Maybe my first fight against her in my playthrough was actually the anomaly. I'll try a few more times to prove that this is actually the case. And here's why this fight is so awful. Confuse Ray cuts my consistency, Lick doesn't do much damage, Agatha uses super potions fairly regularly, and her Pokemon have a lot of healing moves, like Mega Drain and Dream Eater for instance. So she's essentially stalling my Lick out and draining all my PP. To make the prior fights that I've tested here consistent, I freed up my moveset from Bide. Remember, I can't just learn it later because I need it for Pokemon Tower. So either I win those prior fights with Bide on my moveset, or I delete it and win this fight without it. But maybe level is the thing that's actually holding me back. I use all 5 remaining rare candies and attempt at level 75 to see if this is a realistic level to defeat her. Things are already better. I lose the first fight though because of a really bad string of sleep luck against the final Gengar. The second fight I win, so this is feeling a bit better. I lose the next fight at Haunter though because of Sleep and Dream Eater, so I guess this isn't consistent. I thought about mimicking Confuse Ray instead of Lick, but after Substitute, the first Gengar can't be confused again. So this strategy would just require way too much luck to pull off. So J-Rose is right, Agatha is just a lottery today. I'll defeat her as fast as I can and proceed to Lance so that I can test the last 2 members at this level. After that, I'll return to Agatha and see what level I need to defeat her 5 times in a row using this strategy. Let's be honest, Eevee doesn't really have any other strategies against her. I could save Sand Attack from the very beginning of the game, but that would constrain my moveset far too much throughout the entire playthrough. Another option, of course, is using Double Team. That would trigger the Badge Boost glitch and give me more effectiveness with each one of my Licks, but I don't think that that's a really fun strategy, so I'm not going to use it today. However, if you want to do this playthrough on your own, I would recommend replacing Reflect with Double Team, because that's probably the fastest way you're going to get past her. The strategy against Lance is simple. Body Slam against the first 2 Pokemon, Steel Ice Beam on the second Dragonair, Reflect turn 1 against Aerodactyl. It outspeeds, so if it uses Fly, then I actually get a useful move off. Obviously, it can crit and negate my setup, but that's only a 25% chance. After that, I can use Ice Beam to sweep his last 2 Pokemon. 5 wins in a row are easy to obtain here. Against the champion, I want to try a different strategy. Last time I relied on Body Slam, but Slash also gets Stab and it has a high critical hit ratio. With Eevee's speed, it has an 86% chance to crit. That's pretty consistent. At level 76, critical hits give Eevee a 1.93 damage multiplier. Stab provides the 1.5 times modifier, leaving a critical hit Slash with roughly 200 power. That's not bad. In comparison, Body Slam will only have around 128 power. What I realized right away with the first 2 fights is that Body Slam is just better against some Pokemon. For instance, Exeggutor or Cloyster, because they're going to survive a hit anyways, and the chance to paralyze shouldn't be passed up. After the next fight, it becomes clear that Slash just isn't the best choice. The 14% chance not to crit, the lack of paralysis, and the fact that Earthquake does roughly the same damage to the 2 final Pokemon just invalidates it as a choice altogether. I tried to use Mimic to steal Recover instead because I thought like maybe there's another move that I can steal that will be just as good, but this doesn't turn out well because Body Slam's PP runs out. So I'm reverting back to my initial strategy and I'm stealing Earthquake now. On the first fight, Cloyster freezes me. Great. So there's a luck-based loss. I then tried mimicking Hypnosis, but this is also just flipping coins. I really don't like it as much as just stealing Earthquake. After some genuinely awful play in the next fight, I finally managed to win. Cloyster's the issue, especially if Exeggutor sets up Leech Seed. One aspect of my previous strategy that I've let go of now in my consistent league test is setting up Reflect against Sandslash. It knows Slash anyways, and that just makes me take more damage than I should have if I waste an extra turn there. Later on in the fight, I can still set it up against Cloyster or Exeggutor if I think I'm going to need it to minimize damage. This is important if Leech Seed is on the field, because then Spike Cannon does significantly less damage. On the 5th fight, this happens. Sandslash crits with Earthquake, taking me to orange health, and then it crits again, knocking Eevee out. So that's my luck-based loss. I only need one more win though. On the next fight, I get into a serious slog against Cloyster. This thing just doesn't want to faint. Making matters worse is the fact that Aurora Beam lowers my attack stat. Unfortunately for me, the longer this fight goes, the more likely it is to get worse, because it can lower my attack again and again. And all of this finally comes together when Cloyster freezes Eevee with Ice Beams. So this isn't consistent enough, but there might be another way to improve Eevee's chances though. Double Edge. It gives me more PP and more damage output. I can also potentially free up Mimic to be used on another move now, and I choose Leech Seed. This lets me go head to head with Cloyster and Ninetales with so much more ease. I'm gaining back health every turn. This also means that the attack decreases from Aurora Beam aren't something that I really need to worry about as much. I have more time. However, the next fight then ends because Exeggutor gets a lucky Hypnosis. After that, I'm able to win, but these fights are really slow. In the middle of this one, my girlfriend actually wanted a hug, and I was just like, oh yeah, just 30 seconds, like I'll be right over there to give you a nice hug. And then this happened, like so annoying. It took forever to defeat the champion. At least in the end, I managed to win. I do think it's worth mentioning that leveling up here a bit more would make all of this so much smoother. I was just getting pretty stubborn and I really wanted to do it at this level. Perhaps also the additional levels would make Agatha much more easy. So let's find out what level I need to get past her consistently with Lick. I honestly thought that this would be challenging and that I would need a lot more levels. However, at level 80, I'm able to get 5 wins in a row. I tried to keep going past that just to see how consistent it was, and then I lost 2 fights in a row. Confuse Ray is just really awful and my PP is limited. At level 85 though, I'm able to do it again and win 5 more fights in a row. So this is pretty consistent in this level range for Eevee. I think that 3 hitting the Gengar and 2 hitting the Haunter is one of the keys that you need in order to make this fight feel good. However, there is another way to make this fight even more consistent, and that's Substitute. It's an option that actually prevents Confuse Ray from messing you up at all, because Confuse Ray can't hit you if you're behind a Substitute. At level 70, this makes the fight so much more consistent. However, losses are still possible because Hypnosis works even when Substitute's in place. At level 80 in 3-hit range with Lick, this fight would be completely trivial with Substitute, I think. However, it is worth noting that Substitute comes at a large cost to real time. If you want Substitute, you really have to plan throughout your whole playthrough so that you have enough coins in order to buy it and then teach it to Eevee. And the process of buying coins takes forever because you have to buy them 50 at a time. This is usually why I don't use Substitute in my playthroughs, because I'm trying to get the fastest possible completion time. If completion time wasn't a metric I was shooting for at all, then Substitute would always be a really good option to go for. Like, subscribe, bring the Chimecho, and make it happy. Also, leave a comment because I gotta read them all. This video is brought to you by the generous support of my patrons. Thanks for your support and making my dreams a reality. Also, if you join, we've got a really cool Discord and it's got a lot of really fun emotes, so come hang out with all of us there. If you've made it this far, you're incredible. It's bloopers time. I luck out in this fight and Spiral. Oh! Oh dear. Spiral. That's a new one. Spiro. Also, I was trying to take notes with like an audio this time while I was playing the game, so I don't have to like pause and like write something down. And I noticed that like Microsoft Word, whenever I say Spiro, it writes it down as bureau. Like I was like reading the sentence and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Like what? Bureau? Oh, Spiro. Okay. Okay, here we go. Brock time. The rock hard Pokemon trainer. Oh my gosh, I woke up in the middle of the night and I said that to my girlfriend. Like, Brock, the rock hard Pokemon trainer. I wasn't awake. I was sleep talking and she was just like, wait, what? And then she told me in the morning. So funny. When you make PP jokes all day, I guess you gotta like make PP jokes while you're sleeping. Like, can't do it any other way. So I actually bought Pokemon. Bought Pokemon Blue. Oh, that's a hard sentence. It uses Hyper Pang first. No. Nugget Bridge. What was I saying? Oh dear. So I continue this training in Erica's gym. This is probably where I met my girlfriend, by the way. This place is filled with attractive, cute women. No, that's bad. Improvised jokes, the worst. When I thought of leveling up to get more PP, that would be nice. Level up to get more PP. If only when you leveled up, you got your PP back. That would be so great. Just like better refractory time for the Eevee. Oh god. Eevee and PP rhyme. Next is Cycling Remote. Cycling Remote. Cycling Remoraid. The first fight that I have to her... Oh no, what am I saying? The first fight I have against her, my PP is the real issue, and that's because I don't have Bide. Bide really gives me a backup. In the previous fight, Bide gave me a backup plan in case I ran out of licks. Licks and PP and Bide, and gotta like bide my time for my... I'm biding my time because I need to preserve my PP for lick? I don't know. There's gotta be some joke in here.